What's going on guys, Jack here and I'm back with another tutorial. Today we have got an afro haircut and it's going to be a skin fade and a shape up with a tiny little trim off the top. Now I would have wanted to take more off the top to get that super sharp clean look, but obviously you have to deal with a client's needs. But the main tips I can give you for cutting the top of afro hair is obviously to keep your hand as steady as possible and to make sure that your eyes are trained to see what is level and what is not. Now obviously you can use your eye to see if something is level, but it's also about using the mirror and seeing if something is even in the mirror and being able to tell the difference between the two, because sometimes you might pick something up in the mirror that you wouldn't be able to see with your eye, and it's about translating what you see in the mirror to what you're cutting off with your eye and your hand. So that is the main tips I can give for cutting the top of afro hair. You can see here I'm working upwards on the sides, however I am working a very triangular shape, so then I can come behind with the scissors and just knock all the corners off that you can see I'm doing now. And the reason being is sometimes when you try to create that rounded shape with your clipper, what tends to happen is you take too much of that length off and it doesn't actually end up being that round anyway, it just becomes more square. So you know, by having that triangular outwards motion on the sides, you can then come behind with the scissors and round it off, and you save a lot of length and make a better shape. And here you can see I'm just putting in my bald guideline. I'm using my chemi clippers to create that with a wool balding blade on. Because of his skin, I am allowed to foil that down. With most afro hair you can't really foil it down, otherwise they'll get bumps, but fortunately for him he has the skin in order to do so, so it's all good. So now I'm starting off by creating a 0.5 guideline. Now this is something a bit different for me. Usually you're seeing me doing descending graduation, working downwards without creating any guides, but this is something I use predominantly just for afro hair, but it's a really nice technique. And here what I'm doing is I'm working my lever halfway in between, so it's about a 0.25, and what I'm doing is I'm just blending up to where that 0.5 line ends. So I'm going right up to that point and I'm just flicking out, and you can see that now from what you're watching on the video, that I'm not trying to push in and create another line, I'm just trying to gently tap out that bottom line. I'm not going to go all the way down to a 0 and take it out, otherwise then I'm not going to be able to see what I'm doing as well with my fade. Sometimes I feel like leaving that bottom line and can create that gradient for you that you need to be able to see what's going on. But now I've snapped on a 1.5 and you can see I'm going right to where that shape started to come outwards, and I'm just removing all that bulk. He does come for haircuts quite often, so the length will never get much beyond a 2.5 on the sides. But if it was longer hair, then I would say just hit it with a 2.5, carry on building your shape, and then come behind it with a 2 and then a 1.5. So after the 1.5, what I'm doing now is I'm using a 0.5 guard open, and I'm just pushing just beneath where I did that 1.5, so very similar to the descending graduation technique where I'm going right beneath what I was doing previously. And this is just going to allow me to really create that gradient, especially with thicker and tighter curls that the afro textured hair does have. So then now once I've done that, I'm going to drop down to a 0.5, and I'm just going to blend those lines in between the 0.5 and the 1.5. Obviously I've hit it with a 1, but that will leave a small line in the middle that I need to just work out. So I'll go on that line with a 0.5 and then slightly open to a 0.75 and just tap any areas of dark spots that I see. So you can see I'm utilising the corner of my clipper quite a lot here. So now I'm on a 0.5 with the clipper, and I'm just stretching that blend out a little bit more just to give me a bit of room. And then here I'm just tapping on that bottom line with a 0. Really just, it's very fine amounts. I'm not trying to push that line up at all, so I'm really just tapping on the bottom line, just making sure that that's all gonna blend through nicely. And once I've taken out that line, I'm gonna see any dark spots or anything that I need to work on, so I'll just work on that. Coming onto the other side now, it's the same process. So we are doing a 0.5, then we are going to come behind that with the 0.25, and we are going to work that just beneath the 0.5, exactly as we did before. And the best thing about this is, you know, it's a very structured technique, and you can see what you're doing. You're following the same steps each time, so it will be easier for you to know where you're at and what stage of the fade that you're going on to. So you see now, just working that bottom line out again, and you can really see how small my flicks are. I'm not pushing too far up. You can't see my clipper going past that top line. If you're seeing your clipper go past that top line when you're flicking with the 0.2, then you need to try and bring that down a little bit, try and control it, and just make sure that you're coming just beneath that 0.5. Now you can see I'm going with the 1.5, working up to that line, just as I said before, just where I started to come out with my free hand with the clipper, that's where I'm going to do my 1.5. Here I'm snapping on a 1.5 guard open, just to debulk that little area at the front. Now I'm just switching to my 0.5 guard open, and what this is going to do is it's going to allow me to transition between the 0.5 and the 1.5. So sometimes you've got to work with the grain. If there's a really tight curl there that's frustrating you and you keep working against it and it doesn't seem to be going anywhere, just try coming and turning the clipper the other way around. Working with the grain, it's just going to reduce the weight of that curl down, and it will sit more flat and allow you to put your clipper through it easier. So here you can see I'm at the bottom part of the fade. I'm just taking out that bottom line with my 0. And I'm going to start looking towards the back now. So keeping in mind the back of the head is the most dense part, that's where the most follicles grow. So I may have to push this a little bit higher in my grades than I did last time to take out some of the lines, just due to the density of having more follicles in that area. So you can see, again, following exactly the same process, doing my 0.5, then my 0.2, leaving that 0 line to take out at the end. And I'm going to leave this to run now so you guys can follow the process through the back and any refinements that I do. now we're coming on to that front hairline, and we need to make sure this is all laid down crisp and ready for us to hit with a shape up. So what I'm going to be doing here is just taking off any overhanging hairs from the front and just any longer hairs that I can see through the top. Just going to finish that off, and with his hairline I just like to comb it out at the bottom just so I have a little bit of hair laying flat for me to shape. You can see that his hair is quite pushed up naturally, so if I'm trying to shape that, I will just end up pushing him back, and then we're going to have major issues, and we don't want to do that, do we? So you can see I'm trying to stay as close as I can to his natural hairline. Once you start pushing someone back, it's a never-ending game, because you have to push certain other areas back to make it look as sharp as the other area, and then before you know it, you've just pushed it back like an inch, and it's not good. So keep as close as possible to the natural hairline. The natural hairline is your guide. So you can see I'm just tapping on any area that I need to, and I'm being very delicate. I'm not trying to push too hard on his head. I don't want to start stabbing him up. And the more delicate, the more gentle you are, the more finesse you have, you're going to have a cleaner shape. Sometimes when you're too rigid, you'll find yourself doing things unnaturally, and it's going to make your line slightly off. And here I've had to switch clippers because the clippers I was using died, and I was very upset about that, I must say, because they are very nice clippers, but these are good nonetheless. You can see, keeping it as close as possible to his natural hairline. I do not want to push him back. I cannot stress this enough. But you can see I'm not pushing him far back at all, and I'm still creating a crispy line. So it is all Gucci. And then there we go, guys. That's it. That's the look. There's a skin fade. There's a shape up. I hope you guys enjoyed. Any questions you have, let me know, and I'll see you all next time.